Hi, and welcome to our short presentation using PROACTOnDemand to reflect a case study from a retail pharmacy med-rec error. This is actually one that I experienced as the author of this case study. Let's go through some of the sequence of events. The date of occurrence was Wednesday, January 12, 2005. A 39-year-old female patient consults her physician about medication to alleviate pain associated with bladder spasms consistent with her interstitial cystitis condition. The consult with the doctor is at 7 in the morning. The doctor subsequently calls in the order to the patient's neighborhood retail pharmacy for Hydrox 25 milligrams to be taken 3 times per day, and he called this in shortly after 7 a.m. The neighborhood pharmacy is not open and no one answers, so physician leaves the order on the pharmacy recorder. The pharmacist retrieves the order and interprets it as hydrochlorothiazide 25 milligrams 3 times a day. The pharmacist dispenses the hydrochlorothiazide at 25 milligrams 3 times per day for this IC patient. When getting back to the work, the patient recognizes that the label does not match the medication the doctor indicated she would be taking. The patient returns to the pharmacy to inquire about the error to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist is insistent it's the doctor's fault. The pharmacist even goes as far as to refuse to refund the $3.50 copay for the wrong medication being dispensed, stating it was the doctor's fault, not theirs. The patient discusses with the doctor the reaction of the pharmacist to her inquiry, and the doctor calls the pharmacist to try and clear it up. Unfortunately, the doctor receives the same scathing dissertation about it being his fault. The doctor explains that hydrochlorothiazide is normally dispensed only 1 time per day, and it should have been a flag to the pharmacist to call him. The pharmacist says she thought it was odd, but she didn't question it enough to call the doctor to confirm. The patient filed a near-miss complaint against the pharmacist and the pharmacy with the State Board of Pharmacy. Let's go ahead and take a look at this from the root cause analysis standpoint and see what we can gather about the contributing factors leading to this undesirable outcome. Okay, we know we had a reportable near miss that could have aggravated the current condition, the current IC condition. Hydrochlorothiazide actually is a diuretic that would actually aggravate the IC condition because it would require going to the bathroom more frequently. Okay, what caused this to occur? The patient was given the wrong medication by the pharmacist. We know this to be true. The patient detects that they have the incorrect medication. We know this to be true. And exposure to the state board and corporate sanctions. We know this to be true. How could the patient have been given the wrong medication by the pharmacist? This should look like a common branch, whether it's a retail pharmacy or a hospital pharmacy, but these are the typical branches, if you will, for an RCA involving a pharmacy. Monitoring, administering, dispensing, transcribing, prescribing, and medication manufacturing error. In this case, and with all of these, the H is a hypothesis, the X's prove that they were checked but they were not true. I can double-click on any of these and a verification log pops up. The interview with the patient confirms that she did indeed receive the improper medication from the dispensing pharmacist. And this was a result of an interview with the patient, as well as we interviewed the pharmacist, the pharmacy manager, and the prescribing doctor. How could we have had a dispensing error? Well, the labels could have been wrong. That was checked and not the case. Or there was a transcription error resulting in wrong meds being dispensed. In this case, there was a transcription error. How could there be a transcription error? Well, the prescription can be either called in by the phone verbally and talked to the pharmacist, left on an answering machine, or faxed / written order. In this particular case, because they were closed, the order was left on the answering machine, which is very typical in retail pharmacy. Okay, so how could the wrong medication have been dispensed after it was left on the ordering machine, the answering machine? Language barrier to proper transcription. English was a second language for this pharmacist, but in this case it was not enough to be a language barrier. The order was not confirmed with the prescribing physician, and the orders were filled strictly from the answering machine source. Okay, the order was not confirmed with the prescribing physician when it should have been. If we look at this, the interview with the doctor, the prescribing doctor, said, did they ever call to confirm the order in question question it for any reason? No. Should they have? Yes. It should have been a conflict in the pharmacist's mind that when you would not prescribe hydrochlorothiazide 3 times per day like you would Hydrox. This should have been a flag in which I should have been called. What would have been the adverse effects if the patient had taken the dispensed medication? The medication was a diuretic used to treat high blood pressure. This would mean that it would have increased the frequency of urination to rid the body of excess water. This would have greatly agitated an IC patient who was experiencing bladder spasms due to the disease. There is no read-back, spell-back policy in the retail pharmacy. When we look at that, we confirm that no policy exists, which is typical in the retail pharmacies as opposed to a hospital pharmacy, which is under the Joint Commission guidelines. Such policies not required in retail under pharmacy state law, and this would be in the state of Virginia. The pharmacists did not recognize the inconsistency. They should have been flagged. How come they weren't recognizing it? No credentialing is required in retail state pharmacy. Credentialing is the annual recertification of professionals based on passing some demonstrated skills requirement as opposed to attending classroom training for hours in a seat. Credentialing would involve reviewing a pharmacist's track record over the past year to determine if they were prone to make more errors on certain types of medications as opposed to others. Recertification would require them to demonstrate a proficiency in understanding of the meds in which they had problems with in the past. That did not occur in this particular case. The orders were filled strictly from the answering machine. The current dispensing procedure was inadequate. How could it have been inadequate? Such policies were not required in retail under pharmacy under state law. Okay, so let's collapse this. We'll go to the patient detects that they have the incorrect medication. Luckily, in this case, the patient knew what the correct meds were. So that was a mitigating factor, that it could have been worse if the patient had actually taken the medication. But this was not a foreign medication to the patient. She understood and had taken this in the past. She just didn't recognize it until she had gotten to her office. And the fact that she checked the label. Exposure to the state board and corporate sanctions. Near-miss incident was not reported properly by the pharmacy. Why was that the case? It was not reported to the corporation by the pharmacy personnel, and it was not reported to the State Board of Pharmacy. Why was it not reported to the corporation by pharmacy personnel? The incident was not known about by pharmacy personnel, or the incident was reported by the patient to the pharmacy. The pharmacist did not report it herself. Why didn't she report it, understanding what the proper protocols were? The procedure does not exist to report near misses. The procedure does exist for reporting near misses, and this was a procedure violation. So knowing that it was the proper procedure, why still didn't this pharmacist report it? It was perceived as not her fault and not her problem. She made that quite clear. And the procedures in this case were unclear in the sense that the review of the procedure confirms that it could be misinterpreted as I only report when I feel I am at fault, as opposed to when a patient receives the actual wrong medication. So there was some ambiguity in the rules, which allowed some play in that would allow miscommunication to seep in. It was not reported to the State Board of Pharmacy, as it should have been. The incident not required to be reported to the state. The retail pharmacy meets state requirements for investigating in-house. State regs confirm that since the retail pharmacy passed state requirements for suitable in-house investigation standards, this incident was not reportable to them. In this particular case, what had happened was us as the patient reported it to the state boards as opposed to the pharmacy reporting it to the state boards. Okay, so if we go ahead and employ a feature in PROACT called Path to Failure, the brown boxes represent deficient systems. Deficient systems feed information to people to make better decisions. When we don't have all the information we need or the accurate information, then we tend not to make the best decision. As a result of poor decision making, we trigger a series of physical consequences to occur, which are the PRs, with the HRs being human roots. And in this case, we can see the effect of bad systems on bad decisions on bad outcomes. And we can see in this particular case there were numerous issues, contributing factors and root causes that led to this undesirable outcome, which luckily was a near miss just because the patient knew what type of medications that they were supposed to be on and knew enough to go ahead and check the medication. So what is the end result of this? I pulled an excerpt from the interviews with the pharmacy manager at this particular retail pharmacy. The manager could not be more apologetic about the way the pharmacist handled the situation. She said that she obviously handled it improperly and that she should have refunded the money regardless. The manager recognized me and my wife when I came in, as I was a frequent user of the pharmacy, and that she had always been very gracious and helpful. I knew that the conduct of the FP, which was the floating pharmacist, this actually was a floating pharmacist that traveled around to areas, other pharmacies for this chain, when people were out on vacation or out for whatever reasons. I knew the conduct of the floating pharmacist was uncharacteristic of the service that we were used to at that pharmacy. She immediately refunded the money for both prescriptions, copied my information that I presented in what I'm presenting to you, and acknowledged that her boss would contact me about what will happen as a result of the near miss as per their own investigation. She thanked me for bringing this to her attention personally and the open-mindedness to not draw conclusions without hearing both sides. She indicated that we were longtime patrons and that she wanted to earn our trust and continued business. Okay, this will conclude our short eye presentation about a case study involving a MedRec error in a retail pharmacy. Really what we try to get across with this is about the balance of understanding both sides of a situation when you're conducting an RCA, and to be thorough in terms of looking at all the possibilities and using evidence to back up what we find in terms of hypotheses, and only follow things that prove to be true. Otherwise, we let hearsay and ignorance enter a root cause analysis, and then we treat them as fact, and then we implement solutions that just don't work, and it's been a waste of time for everybody. So thank you for your time. For more information on the PROACT methodology, software, and our RCA templates for healthcare, please visit www.reliability.com. If you would like to download a copy of this logic tree and this case study, please click on the associated icon. If you'd like a live demo at your convenience, please contact our John Bartlow at 1-800-457-0645. Thank you for your time.